So welcome everybody to number 24. Let's talk business coaching number 24, and a bit of change of theme this time round. I thought we'd have a good little brief discussion around not just normally talk about what's gone well and our wins and how amazing we are. And in coach world, it's all about success and results and outcomes and all that sort of thing. But actually, in reality, there's a lot more things go wrong than we tend to admit to. So I thought it'd be interesting to just go around and have a discussion about things that have gone not so right, what went wrong, how we overcame it, what we learned from that. Do we repeat it again? Sometimes the greatest lessons we get aren't from things that go well. It's when things go wrong. So that's the general theme for this evening. So Gareth and I'll kick it off. And then we'll open up sort of questions and general discussion after about sort of 20 minutes, I suppose. So, Mr. Hughes, anything ever gone wrong in your life, career? Any mistakes ever?
Yeah, I was going to say, we only got an hour for this, or is it? I think, I see you talk about my coaching business. What's my biggest mistake in my coaching business?
Well, yeah, anything, wherever lessons come from, actually, yeah.
I think I made pretty much every mistake I could. Even when people said to me, you know what, I'm going to give you some advice here. Don't under any circumstances do X, Y, and Z. And then what did I do? I did X, Y, and Z. I thought I knew better. And so every mistake you can make. But I think one of the biggest ones is giving away too much value, which I think in turn means I didn't value myself enough, if that makes sense. So okay. I left a lot of money on the table at the beginning, because as a coach, as a new coach, you kind of have this assumption that you need to prove that you can give value. And so at every initial meeting, I was trying to prove my value by just giving the people the answers. And as a consequence, they didn't obviously sign up with me, because they just went and did what I told them to do. And I left a lot of money on the table at that time. And that is probably one of my biggest mistakes.
So you gave it away for free for a start. And it's a very easy thing to do in any sector, especially in the coaching sector. And I was thinking about this in terms of my coaching business as well. Been in this thing for nearly 20 years now, crikey, and a fair few things have gone wrong and not gone right. But I thought about this subject because I was reminded one of my other clients is doing a college degree, doing an MBA. I know you've got one, Gareth, you're fine. But doing the masters, I was in joke, doing a masters and doing really well. She's enjoying it. And I remember when I was a young manager working in a wood mill down in Bristol, I think it was. And I wanted to go and be sponsored by the company to do my MBA. And the director came down. He said to me, "Why should the company pay for you to do it?" And I said, "Well, if you pay for my college work, I'll stay in the company." And he took that as a threat. It was just like, if you don't do it, I'm going to leave, this sort of thing. And in hindsight, that was a wrong thing to say, of course. And it's one of those few things in sort of life and career. I wish I could go back and say, but what I should have said, I think, would have been, well, if I had that level of training, imagine how much value I could bring to your clients and customers over what I can do now. But I didn't. I said, if you do that, I'll stay with you. And it was never the same after that. He did sponsor it. He did pay for it in the end. I left halfway through and we got paid for it. But anyway, whatever, it got messy. But one of those things was a mistake. A single phrase almost didn't damage my career, but it didn't do it any good either. And it's always interesting, these little things that we do. Sometimes they, as you say, in a sales meeting or just a conversation, we make this error and it points us in a different sort of direction. I think in coaching terms, I'm trying to think I think the biggest mistake I've made, I think, similar to yourself, I guess, is, and a lot of people do this when they're sort of starting out in all businesses, was I sold a couple of programs because I needed the cash. And so you just went, yeah, whatever it was, we were going to do it. This was it. Can we do this? Can we do it? Yeah, we'll do everything. This is the program get started. And of course, it lasted about 2 or 3 weeks, and they saw through it, and it wasn't great. And I oversold and underdelivered and all that sort of thing. It was horrific. And that was probably back in the very early days that wasn't very good. But that's, again, a pattern, I think, of people starting out in any business, is they tend to either give it away, and we've all done that as well, or they overpromise and sell to anybody is probably one of the tricks as well.
Yeah, and I see it all the time, and you know, I think we saw it's probably around this time last year with a mutual friend of ours, and who was very successful in his own right, started a coaching business, and was making every mistake I had made as a new coach. Although he was extremely successful in his own right, and um, yeah, I think you know, I was relieved, almost relieved that somebody of that caliber would make all the mistakes that I made, even though I think we had said don't do X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
and yet it happened. And you know, I think it's so easy as a coach to say, well, I need to, you know, I remember walking into a sales meeting that with a client of an accountancy practice, and it was kind of like, if this sales meeting goes well, then like they're going to introduce me to all of their clients, and you know, they had like 600 clients, and it was a no-brainer, and they loved me, and blah blah blah, and I completely hashed it up by giving too much away.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, just do this, you know, and the guys went, oh well, yeah, we will, thank you very much.
Great, thanks.
And
Great idea.
never heard from that accountancy practice ever again, you know. And you know, I still kick myself every day, you know, every day for that, pretty much. You know, I think it's just so easy, and it's a real skill not to give too much away, I think.
Is it, I mean, I think looking at things that go wrong in business and life and all sorts, in my experience, it's fair to say, I think that most things that they start with me. It's me. It's not the external circumstances that go wrong. It's my reaction or response or interpretation of them, and I cause it to be wrong, which I suppose is encouraging in a way. That means I can correct it. But I think, you know, I've seen this in I say throughout my career, the things that have gone wrong or have got wrong. I remember I ran once back in the day a wiring harness company, and I was, you know, we were making cab wire. I know it's bizarre. We were making cab wiring harnesses for military vehicles, all the big trucks and the tankers and Foden trucks and the RF, and the big tank transporters, this sort of thing. We made that. Anyway, the wiring harnesses. So we were recruiting these people in, and the quality, it bombed within about a month of me. I didn't do anything particular, but it bombed within about a month of me being in control. And what we hadn't done, and it was on my watch, when we were recruiting people to come into the business, we didn't check. Sounds obvious. We didn't check for color blindness. So you've got all these wires, you know, different colored wires everywhere, and we had these people who 99% of them were okay. We had 2 people on this team, about 40 people on the line, and they weren't color blind, but they had what we call green shift or red shift sight,
Yeah.
and they couldn't spot the difference between all. So they were wiring up there. So they turned the army came down. They turned on the indicators went on, and the horn blew, or they pressed the washers. And the electric, whatever, the lights came on. It was horrific. And that was something that we didn't pay enough attention to, the detail of all the procedures and process. And it wasn't specifically me that did it, but it was all part of it. And these things, they happen really easy. And of course, they run away with a sense. That was a mistake. I was hauled over.
Oh, if we're talking about biggest mistakes, I'm sure I once sent a C-130 aircraft to the wrong airfield in Jordan to pick up some troops that weren't there. I sent a fast jet through Israeli airspace with the wrong transponder codes and almost got.
Wow, this is
down.
serious. This is on another level now.
I mean, yeah. If you want to pay mistake top trumps.
Wow,
I think
this is good.
I mean, neither of those were exclusively my fault. But,
no, sure. There you
go. I should have checked stuff.
Yeah.
But yes. So,
but do you find as well that, I mean, some of the mistakes we make, I think, in business and life, we don't even know about them, if that makes sense. We don't take the opportunity, we don't make the choice, we don't say yes to something, therefore we never know what could have happened, and that in itself can be a mistake because we didn't explore the possibilities to a certain extent. And it's something I've learned, I think, you know, during my career, that we said yes to quite a few things, and, you know, life and business has gone all over the place in a good way. But I always wonder, is it the opportunities we didn't take or didn't evolve or explore, whatever it was, were those the mistakes? And I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah, the things we said no to, perhaps that's a mistake too.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, you could spend your life wondering about that, couldn't you?
Yeah.
It's probably not too not
I'm,
worth dwelling on. I don't know. For
I'm
me, it's
wondering
not.
about my wallpaper choice
I
now
mean,
after what you said earlier on. That might be mistaken.
yes. Well, I think. I mean, more importantly, I think it's the opportunities that we turn down that we don't know what could have happened. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's right for me. I think. But I mean, you can spend your life thinking about that, can you? I just.
It's you can go, you follow your tail around a bit, but also I think when things, even when we've said yes to things, it's interesting other people's reactions to them. You know, when we said we're going to start a business in Luxembourg, we're going to go to the US or whatever it was, the number of people who said, "Oh, you must be mad, you must be crazy, don't do it. It'll be the end of your career." You know, when I switched from making containers and packaging to a company making dresses for ballroom dancers, and that I was told that was the end of my career. That was it. I'd sort of flipped out, sold out, and all that sort of thing. It wasn't going to be. It must be mad, and that was like career suicide. And in fact, it wasn't. It was the complete opposite. So some things do, but other people didn't see it that way. They thought it was a big mistake. And in fact, when I see people saying that I shouldn't do something, it's a big mistake, that gives me confidence I'm probably on the right track, I think, as well, to be fair.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I always say, if you're thinking about starting a business or anything like that, don't listen to your family or your friends. They're just because they'll, my best is, the bloke down the pub. I call it like the bloke down the pub.
Yeah.
And, and because you get some just completely weird advice, and I remember, it was probably about 10 months ago now. Somebody contacted me on LinkedIn and said, I'm looking for a business coach. I've seen your stuff, really like it, blah, blah. Let's set up a meeting. He didn't show for the meeting. And I thought, that's weird, because he approached me, right? And then, but I didn't think of anything of it. You have these things go, this happens in this game and stuff like that. So, but about 6 or 8 weeks later, he messaged me again and said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I missed the meeting. I've decided not to go with a business coach. My friend says I need to go with a financial advisor instead." Those are two completely diametrically opposed careers. Like, I just don't understand how he's got to that conclusion. His friend says he needs to go to the financial advisor. You just get some absolutely crazy advice if you listen to your friends and family.
But actually taking advice can be a mistake in itself, can't it? It can be, you can take the wrong advice or whatever wrong advice is, but it's the advice that comes from people.
Too much advice.
Yeah.
Too much advice is a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, I was advised not to get a motorbike. That didn't end well, so I got one anyway. That sort of thing. But some advice you should listen to in hindsight. But pretty much advice is given freely. Anyway, so okay, we'll open it up a bit because this is good. Anybody else? Because this should be quite a diverse conversation. I would have thought. Biggest, best, worst problems, things have gone wrong. What have you messed up on that was interesting or good learning? Anybody like to chip in with any contributions? Notice Phil's gone quiet now. Look.
Yeah, I could be a bit slow on the uptake sometimes. So when I left the Navy back in the early 80s, the bank account was going that way. So I needed to get something going. I put my CV out there and just expected the phone to ring. But was that 1982? I'm still waiting for it to ring. It just never did. So we need to get into business. We need to get something. So it was either get a job or start a business. So I started a business in something that I knew, which was bars and restaurants and all that type of thing. Yeah. It was 22 years I spent in that industry, and I was really, really good at it. Really was good at it, but I didn't like it. So I spent 22 years doing something that I didn't like. So I was really slow in the uptake. So with regard to coaching, one of the pieces of advice I would give to someone who's, if you're not enjoying the way you do, you're not enjoying it, then change the way you're doing it. Because it is a really enjoyable business when you get to grips with it.
Yeah.
And then back to something that Gareth said, another sort of blinding flash of the obvious, I guess you could say. I had was one day I was private. I'd seen this good idea in one of my. It's the boathouse, Gareth. I was going to sell this.
That is a good idea.
Yeah. I was going to sell this thing called a hot beef sandwich, and it was a baguette. We could cut beef off the bone, put it into the baguette, caramelized onions, gravy, chips, and salad, and all that type of stuff with it. And I thought, right, let's price this up. And I sat down, I was pricing it up, and it came out £4.50. And we're going back to the early 90s, £4.50 for a butty. That's a bit expensive. So I thought it was just my maths. My maths was bad. So right, what's the menu say? And on the menu, which were professionally priced, we had things like a ham baguette at £2.50. So I thought, well, I'll bang it around that price. And I put it on at that price. And we were doing really well on this. We're selling about 300 of these buggers a week. And it's like, but it was nagging me. The back of my brain, it was nagging me. You know, what if I've got this wrong? What if I got this wrong? And when I sat down and worked out again, it still came out at £4.50. So eventually what I did was I took it off the menu, reintroduced it I took off the specials board, reintroduced it over a period of time, and then took it back off, reintroduced it, and each time put the price up till it got to £4.50. So the big question is, what happened to the sales? Well, actually, they dropped, as you would expect, to £4.50, but didn't drop anywhere near as much as I thought they would do. So we're actually, but what happened to our profit? Went up there. So I was doing less, was making more. So that's another thing. A big lesson is in pricing. You know, what are you charging? You know, and it's like, because I guarantee that there's a coach around the corner from you that's charging way more than you are, but are they really 10 times better than you? So, you know, look at your prices, and are you underpricing things? Because people will still buy it when you know, if it's good, people are still going to buy it. So that was the lesson I got. Yeah, 2 lessons.
I think, but price is an interesting one, isn't it? Because if you're too cheap, people don't value what you do either. You can, it's like, you know, laser eye surgery for, you know, £5.50 an eye or something. Nobody's going to go.
I'm getting that next week.
Yeah, well, just careful with that one. Be careful. Yeah.
I think there is an element of you know, pricing yourself properly. And there's a school near me, and they pride themselves on being the most expensive private school in the Southwest. Yeah. And if another school raises their prices, they raise their prices. And you know, they think that you know, because that, and there was a huge, I mean, probably 10 years ago they set the same, and there was huge resistance to it amongst the staff and things like that. Yeah. But you just put yourself in a different pool of fish, if that's the phrase. Yeah. And you know, they openly say they want to be the most expensive in the Southwest.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's it. And but price does convey exclusivity and value and perceived quality, all this sort of thing. And I do think there's a case here from a coaching point of view, is that you're going to attract a certain amount of clients by being the most expensive. People want the best or perceived best, and they just go for it. So that can be underpricing can be a big mistake as well sometimes.
Yeah, well, think about Stella Artois and reassuringly expensive.
Yes,
I can remember my dad having that on in one of his pubs. And we're going back now to the late 70s, and he couldn't sell it at 14p a pint. He couldn't sell Stella at 14p a pint, right? But Stella, you couldn't give Stella away in pubs. You know, it was there in it. I had it. My first ever £1 pint that I pulled for somebody was a pint of Stella with lime, and I was embarrassed about asking for £1 and a penny. But the thing is when they put that reassuringly expensive thing up, they rocketed the price, and suddenly everybody wanted it. It's something they couldn't really have anymore. Yeah.
I guess when I'm underpricing in all sectors is probably a big mistake a lot of people make, in that sort of fear. But I think, and also when people start out in any business, whether coach world, whatever it is, any business, they start off with a 50% discount for the first 5 customers and all this sort of junk, and that really undervalues the perception in the market that if it's only worth 50% now, it's only worth 50% in 2 years' time as well. I think it's got to be, incentives are one thing, but discounting can be really damaging to business if you're not very careful.
I don't think you should discount, but I just sorry, I'll just say this, but I think when you're a new coach, I'm just I think it's okay for the first few clients, personally, in my opinion, to go lower than you would do in charging, just to get your confidence and to get the sales meeting done and to get the, you know, the money, the cash flow coming in. I do think for the first few clients, it's okay to drop your prices. That's not a discount. That's just,
okay. No,
it's just
dropping price is not. Okay, got it. Maybe not that.
But it's just cheaper than it would be. But then I think after that, after your first clients, you have to stick with your guns and do whatever. Sorry, Claudia.
Good point. Yeah, Claudia.
Yes, that was an excellent point. And I also do not think you necessarily need to advertise it. So you go out and it's still okay if you were, for instance, engaging with the first few and saying, okay, for you, you know, give me a good review and, you know, I throw in an extra session or something like that, right? Not necessarily discounting your work, but kind of giving a thank you. And maybe framing it that way, because I think especially in the coaching industry, it does not only devalue your work if you go low on pricing, it devalues the work of everybody else, right? It's very difficult to compete if you know, these straw and chicken wire weekend coaches go out and offer sessions at I don't know, in an area where a coaching session should go for 100 euros, let's say, they offer it for 50. It's not doing anybody a service, right?
Absolutely.
Because that's going to shape the expectation of the clientele, and then good luck doing it.
We did a workshop in Luxembourg just some years ago now, and we did a 2-day sales workshop. And one of the guys who turned up at the workshop, he came to me at the beginning of the first day, and he said, I nearly didn't come on the workshop. I said, I didn't know, I wasn't really sure about it. So why weren't you sure? He said, well, it was too cheap. And we were charging, I think it was like 395 or 495 for the 2 days or something like whatever it was, that I thought was okay. It's about 4 or 5 years ago now. And he thought it was too cheap. He said, if it had been about, you know, 850 a day or something, I'd have had much more confidence in it and signed up earlier. It's like, crikey, there's a lesson, you know, you can actually turn people off by being too cheap. And he was fine. He got great value, all was good. He was happy, but just the mindset, the price is in the mind of the buyer and not as much as the seller sometimes. So you have to be careful with that one.
Yeah, I think that pricing can be overinflated if you're dealing with a business to business kind of relationship, because businesses can spend more on, let's say, an education or a workshop than an individual person can. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I think that maybe that also kind of flavored his thinking on that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mr. Taylor, anything from your experience that was not quite to plan? Anything that you'd not like? You're being recorded, so be careful what you say now.
There's a few things that never quite go according to plan. My advice is don't try and overthink something before you make a decision. One particular event, I overthought what was going on, and I came to a conclusion. The order was issued. Within minutes, I had the boss on the phone saying, "You got it wrong, son." Right. and all I'd done was I'd read Queen's regulations.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. I thought you'd invaded some small country somewhere or something.
It was a ceremonial event, and the order was essentially what people should wear. And I put down the order as explained in Queen's regulations. I stuck it down, and it was wrong. Queen's regulations is not always correct when taken in isolation. But the thing was, I'd overthought it, because if I just let it go, the way I'd originally thought, this is the way it works every time. Yeah, just let it go. But no, somebody puts a seed of doubt in your mind. You read the rules, and you.
But I think it's sometimes some of the best ideas come out of errors and mistakes, or we might call it synchronicity or happenstance or whatever you want to call it. But there's things like the post-it notes, you know, that was supposed to be a highly adhesive, sticky, permanent thing, and it went wrong, and they made post-it notes out of it. So that was a mistake, an error, if you like, but it actually turned in good in the end. And I think it's what you do as a consequence of the mistakes that we make as well. There was an interesting story. Miles Davis, apparently he was on stage in, I think it was in Germany, I'm going to say Munich in the 1960s, and he had a keyboard player with him, and the keyboard player played a wrong note, a duff note in the music, and literally stopped playing, and that was it. It froze. I mean, Miles Davis didn't hang around in terms of his music, and what Miles Davis did apparently was he heard the wrong note, but he then played a next note that made the duff note okay. So he sort of read it and it became okay because he'd adapted to change it. So a mistake or an error doesn't have to be terminal for anything, providing what you do next makes it okay. You either correct it or adapt to it, that type of thing. But I think there was just an interesting thing, this sort of analogy of a musician who got, and the keyboard player said he was actually mortified. You don't get it wrong with Miles Davis on stage, but apparently he did, and Miles Davis played a different note and made it sound okay. And the audience, they knew it, but it made it better because he had played a different note afterwards as well.
I think I've always, the QRs, the Queen's Regs thing is a classic example of a workplace who make a set of procedures or policies or rules, whatever you want to call regulations. And I've always prided myself on, when I get somewhere, I go, yeah, but why? Why do we do that like that? Because you get the people, oh, you can't do that because it says there. Yeah, it's like, yeah, but we just made that up. So why, and you get people who follow it religiously, and yet there's absolutely no reason for that rule or procedure or whatever. It's a self-imposed constraint. Let's just not do it.
There's a line in a film which I think has got Robin Williams in it. Might not be, but it's to do with the American Constitution. And the line in the film was the character saying, one of the best things they ever did with the American Constitution was that they made it so that you could change it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same that applies to all the rules that humans make up.
Yeah,
they can be changed. Why have we got this rule? What purpose does it serve? Well, it doesn't serve any purpose. Well, let's ignore it then.
Ordinarily, when there's a rule that nobody knows, it's because somebody 10 years ago put that in for a specific reason that doesn't exist anymore. So let's just not. I don't get it. Like,
it reminds me that there's a
monkeys
comedian,
the monkeys and the bananas.
Jim Jeffries, the Australian comedian, is talking about gun control and things.
Oh, guns! Yeah, that's hilarious.
And you cannot change the Second Amendment. And you go, well, yeah, you can, because it's an amendment.
Yeah,
of course, you can change it. All things can be changed because all things are made up. I do remember when I was a young manager in the packaging industry, we were shipping.
Good memory then, Dutch.
Sorry.
Good memory then, when you were young.
There we go. But I know. Anyway, so I was a long time ago. Before I was married. This was, my goodness. Anyway, we were shipping out rocket motors for missiles. I can't whatever all that sort of stuff. And we had to get these big polystyrene moldings in to put around the motors and ship them out in boxes to the Navy, that sort of thing. And one of the directors, we had to get 5,000 moldings, and these are quite big polystyrene moldings. 5,000. One of the front end, the noisy end, and one of the hot end, the back end. Put it in the container, off it goes. And anyway, he ordered 5,000 boxes of moldings, and what he didn't realize was that a box of moldings is actually a pallet which contains 24 of them. So rather than being one 40-foot lorry turn up full of 2,000 moldings, we had 24 lorries turned up in the yard. He'd bought the whole stock for the whole of NATO, pretty much, and it cost an absolute fortune. I was very grateful it wasn't me that ordered it; it was him, thank goodness. But you do see these sort of things go wrong, and we got through. It was all okay. But I do wonder, these things happen all the time. Things we don't even hear about, in terms of business and commerce and deliveries and products and that sort of thing. Stuff does go wrong all the time. And I think it's how we deal with it. What do we do with it when it does go wrong? Do we beat ourselves up or get on with it?
I knew a fellow who was a commodities trader in London, and his main commodity that he traded was coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember asking him, I said, so what happens when you buy all this stuff and you can't sell it? I said, do the 38 tonners turn up outside your office? Full of coffee.
Okay.
And he said that's never happened.
He's living in hope. So it may happen, but
I don't think it even.
I wouldn't mind 38 tons of coffee.
Yeah, 38.
I would get through that.
There you go.
That would be would be a normal month for me.
Kinga, and I'm conscious you're new to the gang, but does anything resonate with you? Any sort of mistakes you're happy to share? I mean, in the art world, any pieces of art you've made or you would prefer not to have made?
Okay. Lately, I made a mistake.
Okay.
You don't have to look far. It was not about art. It was about being a little bit naive.
Okay.
You know, I was offered to make a show in one of the offices.
Okay.
And the person told me that we're gonna have vernissage. There're gonna be a lot of people coming. You know, so this is very common mistake with artists because we need to be exposed in order to be noticed.
Yeah.
But I did not have any legal agreement with that person.
Moreover,
the person, I understand someone can be very busy, but it was very difficult even to get a simple, you know, information that she actually has the paintings in the office to just sign it. It was like impossible to meet her, and it was delayed, and then there was vacation coming and a lot of unnecessary stress for me. So that was a big mistake because the place was good, the possibility was there, but then I felt like there is no information about me. Anyone who comes is just, you know, like art is hanging there for pleasure, looking at it.
Oh, they didn't realize it was maybe for sale or details with that.
You know, I gave catalogs, but these catalogs never landed anywhere to actually show my name. So what did I get from it? You know, business wise, when we don't look at business, artists, they don't really like that stuff.
Yes.
So it was a big mistake. I was not ready for this, what was coming. And I also cannot say if the person was just too busy with her stuff or there was something else going on. Like maybe she did not think about my part, you know. The vernissage never happened because there was lockdown, there was this, there was that. And actually we had like 3 or 4 dates. And I kind of gave up and just said, vacation is coming. Oh, there are many people having health problems now. I cannot have her sign that my paintings are there. I cannot have any agreement. I want to secure my work because it takes time to do it. And then I don't have anybody I can come to and ask if something would happen. I don't wish that for anyone, but technically it could. And I lose so much work, you know. I have nobody to talk to. So I gave up.
Lessons in life. I know when I was working in Southampton, I think it was, the chairman turned up and he had a Lister Jaguar, an XJS, I think it was. It's some 6-litre sports type Jaguar, beautiful car. And he said to one of the guys on the shop floor, he said, could you take the car down to the garage and fill it with fuel and get it valeted as well? So this guy took it down the road, filled it with fuel, which was okay, but he took it through a car wash, didn't get it valeted, took it through a car wash. And of course it came back, you know, scuffed with all the brush marks and things on it. And he couldn't fire him because he did his best, bless him. But that was definitely a matter. And he worked for me as well, so I wasn't in trouble. But it got a bit sensitive there for a while. So they mucked up the chairman's Jag, but still, never mind. Anyway, what about taking lessons from these? Any sort of great lessons in life? I've learned in terms of, you know, trusting people, for example. Yes, you can. Most people you can. Some people you can't. And don't be quite so open. You know, get it in writing for a start. I mean, King, there's one there for you, maybe get it in writing, which we don't. You know, we think we'd like to go through life and business without having to have all these contracts and agreements and things like that. But get it in writing. And I think another big one for me has been watch out for making assumptions about things being okay or being on track or what the agreement was, and if in doubt, get it in writing. So, any sort of great lessons from anybody, that lessons in life and business that you've taken forwards with you in these sort of areas?
Well, I would probably say it's not so much with the exchange of others. It's more, and maybe I shouldn't call them mistakes, but personal traits I'd like to improve because they're still suboptimal. And I think one is not to be okay with a minimum viable product. Okay. I have these perfectionistic tendencies that I have been, doing some self-coaching with myself like forever now, but they still pop up that I tend to maybe a little bit feel, overthink things and want to try to do too much in too many areas and then spread myself too thin, right?
Yeah.
So I think that sometimes it's important to focus and get something done.
Did you find this word seeking perfection is that can really slow people down if you're not very careful, because they're not just
actually there's an interesting thing on that. What taught me not to be a perfectionist is event photography. I used to do quite a lot of photography, and I used to shoot a lot of events also for clubs and associations and things like that. So there you are in control of nothing, right? You're in crowds, there's terrible backgrounds, no light, no space to frame a picture properly or whatever.
Yeah.
And you just have to do your best given the situation that you're in. Yeah. And I really learned to say very often, oh, good enough, good enough, good enough, good enough, good enough. I would shoot. Then sometimes you check your camera and then you say, yeah, that's good enough. I got the gist of it. I got the flavor of the event. Yeah. And it really, that experience doing that over and over for a few years really mellowed me out in that respect. But still, it's like when I want to come up with a product or something, it's which I'm in the stage of doing now, I feel that these tendencies are still cropping up. Sometimes I tell myself it can't possibly be that easy. There must be something that I'm missing, right? And so wanting to put too much in, that's maybe not necessary. So yes, okay. I think that is one thing. But yeah, another thing I think is when we are so focused on the outside and production that we don't listen to ourselves, and especially not listen to our physical state. Right, and our health. I have been struggling with my health for very many years, and it's something that you get so carried away that you forget to check in with yourself and manage your energy. And I think that is something that can be or become a big mistake for people. If you overexpend yourself, then eventually you're going to drain that bank account and go into overdraft, and then maybe you realize it too late.
Yes.
So yeah,
that's a good point. I think that seeking perfection is a difficult one, and it's something, for me, I'm an engineer by training, and was taught that things had to be right and correct and intolerance and perfect fit and all this sort of thing. It had to be right, and it did, because we were making rockets and guns and things that had to go bang. But when I came into business and industry, I think it's a great point that you made there. Things didn't have to be perfect. They had to be good enough, or fit for purpose was the term that we would use. Fit for purpose, good to go, all this sort of thing. And it took me a long while to get used to that, because I always thought, well, I can make it a bit better. I can make it more polished or a better whatever. And it wasn't necessary. It was just one of those things, like a commercial approach. This sort of seeking perfection can be very debilitating for people as well. So great points.
And the 80-20 principle. I mean, once yes, 20% get you 80% of your day, but how much energy do you need to expend to get to the 95%?
Absolutely, that's right.
And then you can never really ever get to the 100% unless you solve a math equation, right?
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
And so then it's just an unreasonable expectation in the end, right?
Yeah,
and managing expectations, not only the ones of the clients and the ones of the external world, but mostly your own, I think is paramount. And
absolutely.
you can like run yourself into the ground and suffer analysis paralysis and not go anywhere.
I was watching a YouTube channel. I watched these engineering car things, whatever, and this guy was saying a similar thing as you were saying there, he was talking about cars and speed. He said you get every car manufactured in the world today pretty much will do 100 miles an hour, 160k. They'll do, every car will do that. But to go, and they can buy one of those cars for sort of what, 12 to 15,000 euro. But to get a car that doubles that speed, you're not paying twice the price. You're paying, it's up to sort of 500,000 to do 200 or 320 kilometers an hour. It's exponential. And I think, as you said, this sort of chasing perfection, to go from 90% to 100%, you got to treble the effort. The resistance is much higher. And of course, in business and life, we haven't got time to do that. Therefore, we have to learn to relax and be okay with things. So
yeah, it's definitely a logarithmic curve. I mean, it's like you just, after a while, the incremental benefit you get is so minimal that it's not
absolutely
necessarily even worth it. And there you need, I think, a certain discipline to just say it's good enough.
Yes.
And I love what you said. It's fit for purpose.
Yeah.
And just take it at that. You can still incrementally improve over time.
Yeah.
But let not that one thing, that might not actually be something that clients even care about.
Absolutely.
It might
Yeah.
not even be the thing that sticks in people's minds.
Exactly. No, I think these are lessons from the Japanese manufacturing for a start, in terms of fitness for purpose and working within tolerances and all this sort of thing. They were very, very good at it. But whatever the Japanese made was fit for purpose. Whereas you look at the British motorcycle industry back in the 70s and 80s, and the products just weren't fit for purpose. I remember, just a quick, so I had a Montego, Austin Montego estate when I was a very young salesman, and it used to leak oil. It used to drip oil in the car park. It was a horrible thing. And I took it back to the dealer for a service and said, look, this thing's leaking oil. And he said, oh, it's supposed to do that. It's supposed to leak oil. I said, what do you mean it's supposed to leak oil? He said, well, it prevents the underside of the car going rusty. It's like, really? That didn't happen with Toyota and Nissan, I'm pretty sure. But his excuse for a bad engine oil leak was it was keeping the bottom of the car from going rusty. But anyway, so it wasn't fit for purpose. That's the thing. Anyway, so I know Gareth's struggling with internet a little bit, so he's pinged me a note. I know he's struggling there down in sunny Devon. Any other final points on these? Any sort of top lessons or lessons in life, business, or otherwise you'd like to be able to bring to the table? Kev, anything from you, sir?
Yeah, decision-making process.
Okay.
Which is quite useful, which is what's the upside of this decision?
Yeah.
What's the downside of this decision?
Yeah.
And can I live with the downside?
Yes. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a similar process. I have it's called the CWL process. It's a system I've used for a number of years, and it's check with Lynn. Just make sure that's my decision-making process. Check with Lynn, and if she says yeah, we're good, then pretty much we're good to go. But yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah. Oh, Gareth, you're back in glorious Technicolor as well, I think. Yeah, are you back? Are you back?
Yes.
Excellent.
I think so, anyway.
Any final grains of wisdom from you're in the south of the UK now as well, of course. So any final points?
No, I think it's really important. Like when something bad happens, you make a mistake or whatever. I think it's really important to have a period of grief, to grieve about it, but then move on.
Yeah, it's a good point. Let it go. Don't dwell on it, because it becomes a continuing reality then if you're not very careful. So yeah, don't beat yourself up too much. But also, I think it's quite reassuring to know, and with the benefit of experience and sort of grey hairs that I've got, is that I know everybody makes mistakes. Everybody does it. We all do it. We get through it. We're not unique in by falling over a few times. It's going to be okay, and life continues on as well. So yeah, don't beat yourself up. That's a great point. Mr. Taylor, any final points from you, sir, in sunny Luxembourg?
Not really. I think everybody's said just about everything.
Excellent. Okay, I'm trying to think of other classic things. I know we made a mistake, an error when we had to move a warehouse from Peterborough in the UK down to Milton Keynes, and this was a company called, I think it was Ross Group or something. They'd made alarm clocks, traveller alarm clocks, and we were making all the guys redundant in the warehouse. What we didn't do, we didn't make them redundant and get them off site real quick. We made them redundant and then did them a deal so they could pack all the products up and help us move it down to Milton Keynes. And we had about 20,000 of these little alarm clocks. And what they did while they were packing them into the cases to get them to move, they set them all to go off at 2:00 in the afternoon. So we've got all these thousands of alarm clocks in the warehouse in Milton Keynes. At 2:00, the whole place has kicked off with electronic alarm clocks. We had to unpack them, and my director explained to me that was my responsibility, so I had to help unpack them as well. But anyway, lessons in life. That was quite a humorous one, but still. Okay, so I think we may have lost Gareth. I think his internet's finally collapsed. Any final thoughts and comments before we wrap it up and call it an evening? Anything else, or are we good to go?
Go.
Excellent. Well, great to see everybody. Kinga, welcome. You're welcome to join us. We're here every Tuesday. It's just a gentle conversation, different theme every week. We have other people jump in. There's a couple of people couldn't make it. Juliet, California, couldn't make it this week. Marie couldn't make it. So there's typically about 6 or 7 of us on the call. And they're all recorded up on the YouTube channel. So you're welcome to subscribe and have a look at that as well. And we'll be here next week. Same time, same channel, but a different subject. And hopefully we'll have Gareth's internet a bit stronger as well for next week. But anyway, there we go. All right, guys, have a fabulous evening. Thank you for participating. Have a great week. I look forward to updates, and we'll see you next week, if not before. So take care, and bye for now.
Thank you.